So today I'll show you in 4 steps how easy it is to actually start sampling right now. Starting with finding a good sample. Okay, so the most common mistake I see people do when getting into sampling is that they simply don't spend enough time looking for the right sample. And now look, while you can take whatever sample and you can flip whatever you want, right? Of course you can. The thing is that if you are a beginner, you need to find the right sample, because if you find a hard sample that doesn't fit, that's gonna be hard to work with, simply you're not gonna have enough skills just yet to flip that sample. So if you're starting out, actually spend time looking for a good sample. And I'm not saying like 10 minutes, I'm saying an hour. Like actually spend an hour looking for the perfect sample. So the sample I found is called Love Won't Let Me Wait, and it sounds like this. And so I actually decided to choose 2 parts of the sample that are right here in the beginning. So I chose this part for my intro and I chose this part for the main part of my beat. So let's actually listen to the second one first. And here's where step 2 comes in, which is leave space. And what that means is simply you always need to leave space, whether it's for yourself or it's for an artist. And what I mean by that is basically leave space for yourself in a sample. So don't pick a part of a sample that's too dense. There's too much happening. Always pick the part of the sample that there's not a lot happening in and that you can add a lot to. So for example, this part right here that I have, it's not as dense. But if you were to look at a different section, like for example this one, all of a sudden it would be way harder to make the beat around that. So what I did with this sample is I took it, I warped it to tempo, and I actually pitched it up 5 semitones and chopped it up like this. So next what I actually did, going back to our point of leaving space, is I actually made even more space for myself in this sample. And how I did that is I simply grabbed 2 free plugins, so this Cymatics Origin to cut out a little bit of the high end, and this EQ to cut out a little bit of the low end. So that is gonna open up the sample even more and it's gonna give us more space to add our own instruments, to add our own bass, and to add our drums. And so the third step is bass first and drums second. So I know a lot of people, when they start sampling, they cannot wait to get to the drums, but actually I would recommend you do the bass first. It's not a requirement, you don't have to do it 100% of the time, but I do think that if you're able to figure out your bassline progression first, then it's gonna be easier for you to add other instruments like leads or chords, and then later on add drums. So I myself actually use 2 basses. So first I actually grabbed this Rose bass from Ableton, and I just played this very simple pattern. Now this bass later on is going to be super helpful for me to add other instruments and drums. So next I actually used an 808 for this beat, and I just based my 808 pattern on this Rose bass instrument. So I used this 808. So as you can see, it basically follows the exact same progression as our bass, but we just have a few more notes playing. Now, once we have our bass figured out, we can actually go to our drums. So I actually didn't do anything complex for the drums. I just used this hi-hat, this snare, and this kick. And so I just started with a 2-step hi-hat pattern and then just added a few accent hats here and there. So it sounds like this. Then I just added the standard snares on 3 and 7 and added a couple of accent snares. And lastly, I just added hard hitting kick that basically just follows the exact same pattern as our 808. And so the fourth and the final step is start simple. So if you're just starting out with sampling, there's no need for you to do any complex tricks. Just start with the basics, a basic sampling technique, a basic 808 or a bass, and basic drums, and just play around with it, have fun, and try to make a cool sounding beat. So actually, after this, I added a couple more things to this beat. So I just added this very simple Juno 6 sound, and just made this very simple pattern where I just play a single note in 2 different octaves to just add a little bit of thickness to the entire beat. So it sounds like this. And then I just added 2 patterns with the same analog lap synth. And so basically in context they sound like this. And if you want to learn how to sample, then check out Sample Academy. It's truly the best place to learn sampling. It's first link in the description, and we currently have a special discount for 10 first new members that join, so just check it out. And so if we just take all this and arrange everything out, here's how the final beat will sound.